What's up everyone? In the last video I mentioned that I had a front lip for the car. That front lip has arrived and I'm hoping that it's going to make this look a lot more aggressive, because even though it's lowered on BC coilovers, it looks pretty much stock. Okay, I just want to preface this video by saying I absolutely hate doing paintwork and bodywork. It's just because I'm really bad at it. I've purposely left all the mistakes in this video so that you can see the real process instead of me just pretending that everything went okay first time. This might be the last time that I do paintwork. I think it's just better to leave it to professionals. So I'm going to be painting this lip, and this is the mask that I'm using. Always make sure to use a mask that can filter solvents. Got some grey primer, got the base coat here. As you can see, the paint code for my car is 6R4, which in the UK is called dark green, but it seems that in the US it's called electric green mica, or electric mica green. And here we've got some touch-up paint just in case I need to make any small corrections. The company I got the paints from is called paints4you.com. I don't know how good they are, but I guess we'll find out. This isn't going to be the best quality paint job in the world, so I'm using a garage that is probably full of dust and dirt, but since the lip is low on the car, I'm hoping that it's going to be okay. So I'm going to unpack the lip and I'm going to test fit it just to make sure it fits on the car. If you're going to use a knife to open this, make sure that you turn the lip so that you're cutting on the inside of the lip so that you don't score the front. So this is the lip I've chosen. It's just an eBay lip. It's a top secret, like, sort of rip-off lip, but it actually looks really cool. I'm not sure on the fitment, we'll find out. I'm going to test fit it now and see. If you want to get one yourself, I'll leave a link in the description so you know where to get it. And if you look underneath, you'll find these little tabs. This is where you can connect the tabs on the lip. So it looks pretty cool from far away, but if we get closer, yeah, some pretty big gaps, and the shape isn't quite right. It's actually scratched the bumper in parts here where it's not fitting correctly, so we're gonna have to sort that out as well. There's a bigger gap here than there is the other side, huge gap around the back, and on this side it doesn't even fit correctly. So how are we gonna fix this? Paint pen, mark around where it needs to be sanded a little bit, sand it down, and trial and error. Just wait until it fits perfect. It's going to take time, but it's got to be done. Here, for example, where it's scraping the bumper is going to need sanding down a bit. So I'm just going to mark that with the pen. Be careful not to touch the bumper. There's another place where it's being stopped from being flush with the bumper. So all we're going to do is just mark all the pieces around the entire lip and then sand it down. I've got some 400 grit sandpaper here. I'm just going to sand down the parts that I've marked, but I'm only going to sand this part because I think this is the main problem, and then I'll refit it, and if it still doesn't fit, I'll sand the next part, and then I'll refit it, and then I'll repeat that process, because you don't want to sand everything and then realise this is the only problem. Just go little by little, take your time to get it perfect. I think I've finally been able to shape it so it's nice and smooth all the way around. It'll fit, but it needs to bend either side to fit, so I'm really worried about painting it and then it cracking later on. I used actually 120 grit just to shape it, and now I'm going to use 400 grit to sand the entire thing before I prime it. It's already been primed, but the guy who sold it to me, or the company that sold it to me, said that it's good to prime it again. So I'm going to sand it with 400 and then we'll get to priming. So this is my spray booth. It's It's not the best, but it's all I've got to work with. So right now I'm gonna wipe everything down with alcohol and we can get to priming. I'm using 99.9% isopropyl alcohol and a cloth. This is just to wipe it down and make sure there's no contamination on it, or as little as possible. Now the surface is as clean as I can get it. I'm going to start priming it. By the way, I'm just using 2 jack stands to hold this up. If you soak the paint cans in warm water first, the paint sprays on a lot smoother. You don't need to soak all the cans like I did, just do the one that you need first. Okay, we are done priming. As you can see, I did 4 very light coats of primer, just in case you want to know. I only filmed one of them because it's boring watching 4 coats. I think it's best doing 4 light coats rather than 2 heavy coats. I just feel like you get better coverage. I have done this before on a bumper and I did exactly the same thing. It's just better to do light, even coats rather than heavier coats and less of them. I did have 2 cans of primer. I only actually used 1 because it was a pretty big can. Just remember that preparation is 90% of the game. So make sure that you're spending as much time on preparation as you can in order to get the best result. This includes cleaning the surface, sanding it properly. From then on, the paint job is actually pretty easy. Now I'm just gonna let it sit for 24 hours and then I'll sand it down again with 400 and put the base coat on. Alright, it's the next day and I'm pretty sure it's dry. It looks and feels alright to me, so I'm gonna wet sand it now with 400 grit. Using some warm soapy water for this, just warm water mixed with Autoglim shampoo. Alright, so I started wet sanding this and I was pushing way too hard, and you can see just here, yeah, I scrubbed the primer off there so you can see my confusion. Okay, it's not ready. Definitely not ready. I'm gonna have to dry it off and reprime that part and leave it a little bit longer. Just gonna blow it a bit with a hairdryer. This is exactly why you want to sand all this crap that's on the top. You don't want that there when you're painting, so you want to make it as smooth as possible before you apply paint. Okay, here it is after painting. It's not perfect, but it actually turned out better than I thought it was. It hasn't got clear coat on it yet, obviously, so... And this is in the light as well, with a light right there. It's the end of the weekend now, so I'm gonna have to do the clear coat next week. It's a little bit patchy in places, but I think, like I said before, it's quite low on the car, and once it's got some clear coat on, I think it'll look alright. Right, it's a week later. and it's too late to apply the clear coat now, so I'm gonna have to sand it down, put a few more layers of base coat on, and then clear coat it. But it's not really the end of the world anyway, because there are a few patchy parts, and it's gonna look a lot better putting an extra few layers of base coat on. This isn't the ideal way to do this. Don't leave it more than 24 hours before you apply your clear coat. So you can see this line here and this line here. It's just a little bit thin on the top, even though I've put 5 light coats on. I'm gonna lightly sand it down with 400 grit and apply 2 or 3 light coats of base again, and then I'll clear coat it. It's been about 45 minutes and now I'm going to do the clear coat. I'm actually really glad that I got to do these extra 3 layers because the paint looks a lot deeper and fuller than it did before. There's no patchiness and the sparkle is a little bit better as well. This is the 6th layer of clear coat. It's also the final coat and the heaviest coat. I'm going to leave it now for about 48 hours, come back and see what it looks like. That was terrible. Now that the clear coat is dry, I'm going to use some 1500 grit sandpaper and wet sand it. Remember to soak your sandpaper in warm water before you start. So it's almost done and I'm just polishing, and you're going to see me scuff it right here. There we go. Now I could have left this out of the video, but I think it's really important to show mistakes as well so that other people can learn. I think what I'm going to do is just carry on with the process and I'll fix it later. I very rarely do bodywork, so this just comes down to inexperience. This is mostly polished now. There is still a little bit more to do, but it's looking pretty good. Right, now we're gonna fix this.
I can't deny, I've been waiting here for your reply. Can't seem to break away from this love, no. And there's one last thought running through my mind. Would I leave this shell, the raw confines, all to feel another moment with you?
Okay, that has been repaired now and I'm just gonna wait for it to dry overnight. pretty much there now. I think it'll be easier to just fit it to the car and then polish it later on.
So I didn't want to drill into the wheel arch because I didn't want it to look crappy, so I got some copper pipe, I flattened it out with a hammer, and then I drilled either side and put it in the vise to bend it into shape. So I made 2 of these, and then I just drilled some holes in the bottom of the lip and used the existing tabs on the bumper to connect them.
Okay, so it's been about 2 weeks now, and I've just washed the car and applied a layer of wax. Lately I've been using this spray-on ceramic wax, but I'm not really that impressed with it, to be honest, so I just used normal wax. I find that this puts on a little bit of a thicker layer and it looks way better in my opinion. I think the reason people use it is because it's a lot faster to apply. So if you look closely, you can tell that there's so many stone chips in it already. Look at the size of that one. That's crazy. These were not here when I finished the paint job, and just after 2 weeks of driving the car, yeah, it doesn't look the best. Obviously it's still got that layer of wax, so it's not that smudged. Once I wipe that off, it'll look a lot better and we'll have a look in the sun. A little bit disappointed as well because you can see some cracks in the paint. I've wiped the layer of wax off now, and I'm going to go put the car in the sun and we'll see what it looks like.
So as you can see, the whole bumper needs a respray really. There's so many stone chips, and whoever has tried to repair damage in the past has not put any clear coat in certain sections. This right here is the only patch of rust on the whole car pretty much, so I'm going to have to take this into the body shop and get this fixed. Apart from this and the front bumper, the bodywork's absolutely fine. Eventually I'll just take the car to a professional and get them to spray everything properly. I'm also going to ask them to add some black sealant to close up the gaps on the sides of the lip. I know that sometimes my personality doesn't come across on the camera because I'm so robotic, but it's just because I'm not really used to talking in front of a camera yet. The worst thing is when I know someone else is listening to me talk to the camera. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.